All right. Hello, WashU parents and families. My name is Mimi Mudd. I'm the Assistant Director for Parent and Family Programs and Student Transitions and Family Programs. And I'm excited to welcome you all to a pre-recorded version of our family webinar series. This is our conversation of academic support. And today we're focusing on the Writing Center and Speaking Studio, as I have my colleague, Dr. Robert Patterson, who's the director of the Writing Center and Speaking Studio. So we are going to go ahead and kind of jump into the information that Rob has for us today. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to him to just kind of give us some of the overall information about the resources and the services that the Writing Center and Speaking Studio provides. So passing it over to you, Rob.
Thank you, Mimi, and I appreciate those of you watching, trying to take an interest in what we do and how we can support your students. When most people hear about what I do as director of the Writing Center, they say one of two things. They either jump straight to talking about grammar, thinking that that's what I want to hear, and that's actually not what I spend most of my time doing. That's not what we spend most of our time doing in the Writing Center. Or they'll go on about how students these days, they just can't write and we must see awful things. And I kind of get defensive because we see wonderful things. We see wonderful writing. We work with amazing writers and have these great conversations and interactions between the writers who work in our center and the writers who come to our center. We work with plenty of strong writers. We work with those who would not consider themselves strong writers, but we see their strengths. So let's talk about what we do on this next slide. We certainly work on writing. And that's the core of what we're doing. But as we're working with writers, and I'm talking about all writers at all levels with all skill levels, we're also working on their confidence, their resilience. We're working on their self-awareness as scholars, writers, and human beings. And we do that with any form of writing. So that could be for courses, that could be something that they're just working on for themselves, anything at all. But how do we do that? How do we do this? We're working on a piece of writing while we're working on confidence, resilience, and self-awareness. So that's on our next slide here. We do that on a one-on-one basis. And that's really important because unlike what's happening in classes, we can build a personal connection and give that kind of personal attention to a writer, respecting them as writers and not having our own agenda because we're not the ones who, have a course and the kind of plan about where things are going for them. That's the professor's job. We're there respecting them as writers. We're not the ones evaluating and grading them, but we're there as coaches and allies who can listen to them about their goals, what they're trying to achieve, and then kind of strategize on how to get them there in the best way possible. And we can empathize with them because many of the writers working in the Writing Center, they've been there. One of the most important things I'm looking for in someone wanting to work in the Writing Center is someone who knows what it's like to struggle with writing. At some point, they went through that very same thing. And so they're able to understand and put themselves back in that place again, as far as what does this person need right now in their development as writers. We engage them as writers and their ideas. We're not line editing. We're not fixing their work and just handing it to them and saying, here you go turn that in. Instead, we're trying to help build their skills and show them how they know or can know the things that they need to be doing. And we focus on the long game. So unlike, a professor who might have them for a whole semester, maybe 2 semesters if they take another course with them, but we can work with them over multiple semesters. So this is why it's really great when someone connects with us in their very first semester. Maybe they're in a writing course where there are only 12 students and they get lots of attention from their instructor. But when they build that relationship with us in that semester, in subsequent semesters, when they don't have that kind of close attention, when they're in a larger class, or maybe they're being assigned a paper by a professor who doesn't spend all their time thinking about writing, they're thinking about, other matters like philosophy or history or chemistry or whatever it is, they still have someone who spends all their time thinking about writing. So we can certainly help in a single session, but we get to work with them beyond the single semester that faculty has them for. And research shows that every single connection to the campus community helps with student success. And we're often one of the personal long-term connections students have to a university entity in their first semester or two. They come to share their successes with us after they work with us, but they also come to us when they need someone to kind of help them get back up after maybe not being as successful as they want. So what about the nuts and bolts? So on the next slide, you'll see we have, we do work primarily by appointment. We have online and in-person appointments available, and we serve all levels, all divisions, every single student. Actually, we also serve faculty and staff. Not quite as many come to the Writing Center, but we are certainly here for them as well. These are 1-hour sessions. And although we're primarily by appointment, we do offer dedicated undergraduate walk-in hours on Tuesday and Wednesday afternoons. Those start a little later in the semester and go all the way until the very end. And we still encourage students, even if they didn't make an appointment, they realize, oh, there are no walk-in hours, I don't have an appointment. We want them to come in. During weekdays, we have people here in the center. And if a tutor is available, they will absolutely work with someone who has walked in. And this is something that's more possible now than it used to be because we've increased capacity quite significantly. We also have day and evening and Sunday availability. So those weekend hours, those evening hours are all online and virtual, but we are available at almost any time. I just can't seem to get tutors to work on Saturdays. I don't blame them. So we're not available on Saturdays. We have a mix of professional graduate and undergraduate tutors, all of whom go through extensive training, get lots of ongoing professional development. And so, students can choose who they want to work with and who they're most comfortable with. And sometimes for a first-year undergraduate student, they want to work with a peer because they're a little bit more comfortable going to a peer. And we want to be kind of a stepping stone to, hey, maybe you want to work with a graduate fellow. Maybe you want to work with some of our professional staff and eventually get you comfortable enough to go to office hours and make use of your faculty's time as well. Sometimes what we're doing is coaching them on, here are the things that you want to ask about with your professor. And so they can go in with a little bit of a script if they're not quite comfortable. We do work with any kind of writing, as I mentioned before, coursework, certainly a senior thesis, application materials to internships, study abroad, jobs. This is the big thing that families are most, excited about. Yes, we can help them apply for jobs or graduate school or medical school or law school. We've even helped them with emails to faculty with tricky situations. I'm pretty sure we've also helped students write emails to parents explaining why they need more money. We're here for them no matter what they're working on. And it's at any stage of the writing process. So certainly we'll look at a draft and talk about it and ask questions and so on to get them thinking and pushing their argument and message a little bit further. But we also help with brainstorming and planning. So if someone gets an assignment and wants to come to us and say, I just want to wrap my head around this prompt and talk out my ideas, they will leave with some momentum, with some notes from our conversation, with sometimes an outline, some next steps so that they can get a jump start. And sometimes I'll get an email or a phone call from someone saying, I need to cancel my appointment for later today because I don't have a draft. I planned on having a draft. I don't have one. And that's when we say, that's exactly when you should absolutely come in, because if you planned on having a draft today and you don't have one, at the very least, we can get you some momentum and you'll have some next steps so that you're that much further along. All right, let's see. So what can you do? The one thing I ask of you is that when you hear that your student is working on a paper, ask if they've made an appointment with the Writing Center. That's one of the big things is that we tell them about these great resources, not just our center, but so many others. But they hear about them at times that they don't need them. They're not writing a paper at orientation when they hear about them, or at the beginning of the course when a professor says, hey, don't forget to make use of the Writing Center. It's in the moment of working on a paper that they're most receptive to being reminded of a resource. And so that can be a really, really great moment for you to kind of remind them of what they've already heard about, and they'll actually make use of the Writing Center. If they're working on some kind of application, same thing, like the automatic thing is coursework. Yes, campus resources for coursework. But if they're working on an application for something that has nothing to do with school, but it's something they're going to do back home over the summer, or they're going to do while they're studying abroad or something like that, we can still help them with those applications. This will hopefully be less likely now going forward with additional capacity, but if their excuse is, well, the schedule is always full, have them try walking in. We do also have a waitlist function online that sends text messages when there are cancellations. We sometimes have no-shows, more than I would like, but it actually helps your students who are looking for an appointment, because we start calling that wait list and say, can you hop on a computer no matter where you are and connect with us now, and we can help you. So when all else fails, just have them come in and say, look, I keep trying to get an appointment. Is there anything you can do for me? And chances are we'll be able to work something out. We can go to the next slide, please. There we go. All right, so these are some of the big things here. Sometimes they'll just say, look, I'm a strong writer. Remind them they can always improve. All writers use others in their process. They're writing for people to actually read their writing. They should involve people in the writing process so that they're learning to anticipate the kinds of responses that a reader is going to have. I also find that, most times it's just a matter of you haven't been challenged enough yet, and that moment's coming. It's going to come at some point, and it's better to have a relationship with someone with resources beforehand, if possible, to know that that's where I can go in that moment when I am even more challenged. Now, if you don't already have that relationship, great, we'll still work with you. And, like I said before, sometimes students are not comfortable going to faculty, going to office hours. Sometimes they might not feel comfortable sharing their work, and especially the writing. It's a little more personal. It can feel more personal than, say, a math equation or chemistry or something like that, because we can feel judged. The words on the page are our thoughts, and we can get a little defensive and feel uncomfortable sharing. And, this is a judgment-free zone. We're not grading, we're not evaluating. That's one of the best parts of our job. And so we're absolutely happy to respect someone and where they are in the process, understanding that maybe they have more thinking to do, maybe they have more work to do. And we've been there. So we're absolutely not going to make someone feel embarrassed or ashamed of where they are and where they need to go. Before we take a couple of questions, years ago, someone asked me, why is it that as WashU students are getting smarter and stronger and more impressive over the years? I was a WashU undergraduate. I don't think I could have gotten in now, given kind of where WashU students are. Why is it that we have to offer even more help, right? And my answer was, well, what we're doing here is not remedial, right? What we're doing is not help in the sense that this person was implying. Instead, what we're doing is exactly what faculty and researchers do all across this campus when they're working on an article or a book project. They share their ideas and drafts with their colleagues. They spend lots of money going to conferences to share works in progress, to get feedback from a broader community. And then they write their articles and revise those articles and books and so on. And even when they are trying to publish, those manuscripts get sent to other peers and get blind peer reviewed to give feedback. And so what the Writing Center is doing is providing exactly that kind of experience, but with the people who have the right training and experience to be able to give good support and help. So, they're writing for, like I said before, they're writing for other people. They should involve people in the writing process itself. So that's a bit of an overview, and we have our website here, writingcenter.wustl.edu, with more information. That's where students can go to make appointments if they'd like. And we have contact information here if anyone has specific situations, questions, concerns that we can address. But even if they don't make an appointment, remember, we'll take walk-ins, and we will also publish walk-in hours for undergraduates.
Great. Thank you so much, Rob, for all of that information about the Writing Center. We have 3 questions that we want to ask you to kind of add a little more information. These are commonly asked questions that we've received from parents and family members for previous webinars. So the first one is about the academic support services that the Writing Center and the Speaking Studio offers. So is that something that is free included in tuition, or is that an additional cost for students?
So there's no additional cost, but I try to avoid the word free because I like it when students hear that they've already paid for it, then maybe they'll take advantage of the things that they're already paying for. There's absolutely no charge for any of our services.
And then the next question is, how far in advance do you recommend students contact the Writing Center if they have an upcoming, this was specific about a paper, but if they have an application deadline, really anything that they're using you for, how much time in advance do you all like?
So absolute best ideal scenario that probably never happens is as soon as they get their syllabi for their courses, they should look at when papers are due, go to our website, create a profile, and then book as far in advance as possible. So if they know there's something coming up in a month, make an appointment for a couple of days before it's due for, okay, that's going to be my draft review, and then maybe a week before for some brainstorming and planning at the very least. So our system does allow booking up to 45 days in advance. In years past, during the academic year, the schedule would be full, maybe 3 weeks out. But again, things are going to be a little bit different. We're able to accommodate things a little more quickly than that. And even when things are full, if it's, I should have made an appointment and it's full, again, we've got the waitlist function. They can walk in and try to get an appointment. I've even told some students, hey, come right here, sit on our couch, work on your paper. And if we have a no-show, you'll be the first person that we're going to see and say, let's work with you right now. So there are lots of ways that we can accommodate them.
Great, thank you. And then our last question, a little more broad. So if parents and family members have students who were high achieving in high school, as I'm sure all of the WashU students were, but they're starting to have a little more of a struggle academically at WashU. Can you tell us, is that a typical experience? And then also, what do you recommend parents do to help support their student, or family members do to help support their student if they're in that situation?
Yeah, this is a great question because it's the one thing that a lot of people ask me in my personal life too, when they find out, where I work and they've got kids in college and so on. First thing is normalize it, because this is absolutely a pretty common experience for students at WashU. At some point in their time here, they're going to encounter things that challenge them in ways they've never been challenged before. That doesn't mean they're not smart, that they're incapable. It's just they don't quite know how to do it yet. And honestly, that's a good thing. That's why you come to a place like this. That's why you go for the place that's going to challenge you. There are plenty of places that maybe wouldn't be challenging, and that doesn't allow for growth. But here we want that challenge. And especially when it comes to writing, there will be plenty of people who come to WashU and they've maybe never struggled with writing, and it just kind of came naturally to them. Well, it doesn't come naturally to anyone. It's just, they just haven't reached the point where they've been challenged yet. And for some students, it's going to be in college writing. They're going to get that first C on a paper or first B on a paper. And that's when they start to come and see us. We hope they'll come and see us before that. But that might be the trigger. Maybe it's not college writing. Maybe it's an upper level course. Maybe it's not until they're trying to do something senior year, but it's going to happen at some point. And it's a good thing because it's an opportunity for growth. Now, that's not always the most comforting thing in the world. When you're going through it, it can feel like you're the only one who's struggling, because everyone makes a pretty good show of making it seem like they've got everything under control. But others are going through the same thing. And one of the best ways to set yourself up to get through those moments is to make use of all the resources available to you. And that's a lesson not just for college, but for life too, right? You're going to, when you need a lawyer, you should get a lawyer. When you need an accountant, you should get an accountant. When these things are not within your skill sets, we should teach our students, our kids, that the way that the successful people get successful and stay successful is not by doing it on their own, but by using resources wisely. And we do have plenty of students who maybe did it on their own all throughout high school. And maybe they didn't have the resources available to them, or sometimes they might see using resources as an admission of maybe I'm not good enough. It's not. That's how every successful person gets successful and stays successful.
Thank you so much, Rob, for those answers and then also for the information you provided. Parents and families, we hope you enjoyed this information, found it helpful, and this first pre-recorded version of our family webinar series. I'm going to do a plug for our next webinar, which will be happening live at 5:30 p.m. Wednesday, November 8th, and that's a conversation about study abroad. We hope to see you all there, and I want to say thank you again, Rob, for all the information today. All right,
Thank you,
bye,
Minnie.
everyone.